So how do you build a universe? You might think it takes some kind of big bang, right? But nope. Sometimes all it takes is a single spark. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to deconstruct the art of world building, taking just one line of dialogue from a fictional story and tracing how it completely blossoms into this rich, living world packed with conflict, romance, and deep lore. Okay, let's dive into it.
And this is it. This is our spark. Just one line, shouted by a character named Arreqqana, right as he arrives at an airport. It's aggressive, it's super personal, and you can just feel the history packed into it. This single sentence, this is the seed from which an entire narrative conflict is going to grow, and we're going to break down exactly how that happens.
All right, so where do you even start? Before you get into all the deep lore and world building, you need energy. You need tension. The creator of this story gets that. They know the fastest way to hook you is to just ignite a powerful personal rivalry from the very first moment. Okay, check this out. This is where we can really see the craft in action, like the evolution of the idea. The first draft, it's good. It's got some sharp, witty back and forth, but the revised draft, that's where the magic happens. By adding that physical shoulder bump, the creator moves past just telling us they're rivals. Now they're showing us. And that physical contact, man, it makes the whole thing feel so much more immediate. It's tangible. You can almost feel the tension yourself.
A great rivalry isn't just a one-and-done moment. That tension, it has to be sustained. So notice how the second they get into the truck, Arreqqana is already at it again, challenging Giroux. He turns the vehicle itself into another arena for their fight. This keeps that energy way up and really cements this dynamic as like a core part of their entire relationship. So we can actually boil this down into a clear set of techniques. You kick things off with some explosive dialogue, then you ground it in physical action, and you make sure to keep that tension going across different scenes. And here's a really smart trick. You use the reactions of other people. When another character, Peppy, gets nervous, it immediately tells us, hey, this isn't just fun and games. The stakes are actually real.
So, we've got our core conflict. It's fiery, it's intense. But a world can't just run on rivalry alone, right? To make it feel real, you've got to expand that emotional palette. So let's see how the story pulls this off by bringing in new characters who have a completely different kind of energy.
And then, in comes Yavenna. And just like that, the entire mood shifts. That fiery competitive energy, it's gone. And it's replaced by something quiet, protective, and mysterious. This one line, from Giroux's point of view, instantly reframes him. He's not just a cocky rival anymore, he's a guardian. The tone just flips from high-energy conflict to this really intimate vulnerability.
And this line of narration just deepens that mystery even more. All of a sudden, the world isn't just about the coast versus the jungle anymore. Now there's this place called East Moon, and it's clearly tied to some kind of trauma. Without giving us the whole backstory, this one little sentence tells us Yavenna is a survivor. It adds this really poignant layer of history to the world. So the world now has this intense rivalry and this deep, quiet mystery. But a truly rich world has a ton of different textures. So how does a writer pivot again, this time into something completely different, something like enchanting romance?
And boom, just like that, another character shows up and shifts the tone completely. This is Arreqqana, and her very first words are nothing like Arreqqana's challenge or Yavenna's quietness. Her dialogue is flirtatious, it's mythic. She introduces these big ideas like the goddess and destiny, immediately pumping a magical, romantic energy right into the world.
And just look at Giroux's reaction. With Yavenna, he's a protector. With Arreqqana, he's totally mesmerized, completely swept up in his feeling of cosmic connection. So by introducing these two very different female characters, the writer doesn't just add mystery and romance, they also show us totally different sides of our protagonist's personality. The world is just getting more and more complex with every single interaction.
Okay, so we've got conflict and we've got a diverse cast, but what makes a world feel truly real? You know it. It's the details. So let's stick with Verona for a minute and see how she becomes a gateway to the deep, deep lore of this world.
This is just incredible. World building can start with something as seemingly simple as a name. Her full name isn't just a random collection of sounds. It's Vikilavara. The fact that it actually means something in a specific dialect, well, that tells us so much, so fast. It means there's a whole language and culture here, the coastal Arreqqana, whose values are clearly poetic and tied to nature.
Wow. I mean, this right here,
This is a total masterclass in how to build a world without just dumping a bunch of boring exposition on your audience. This isn't some dry history lesson, right? It's just a character's daily schedule. But look at everything it reveals. A flow thread ritual? Okay, that hints at a whole magic system. Transforms into mermaid? That tells us there's this incredible dual society. An underwater moon temple? Now we've got religion, architecture, the whole shebang. It is the absolute perfect example of showing, not telling.
Just think about that for a second. From one character's daily schedule, we now understand the pillars of our entire culture. We've got their dual identity, a magic system that's tied to emotions, a society guided by rituals, and even these complex family structures. Every single one of these details serves a purpose, building a world that feels both fantastical and somehow logically consistent. So we've seen it all come together. We've seen the initial spark of conflict, the expansion through different characters, and then the grounding through all those juicy details. So let's lay it all out as a clear, actionable blueprint that you can actually use to build your own worlds.
Really, it all comes down to this three-step process. First, you start with a spark of conflict to hook your audience right away. Then you add in contrasting characters to give it emotional depth. And finally, you anchor all of it with specific, meaningful details that make your world feel real. That's the blueprint, and that's how you go from just one line of dialogue to a living, breathing universe.
From a single shout at an airport, a whole world of storms and moons and underwater temples was born. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If you look closely at the ideas you already have, what single spark is just waiting to ignite a universe for you? What untold stories are hiding in the smallest details of your world?